All right. Hello, everyone. Good to see everybody. And thank you so much, Lakshmi, for joining us again for an opportunity to sit down and learn about your priorities in AI.
Thank you for having me.
So what's really interesting about Lakshmi is she sits at the intersection of national security, technology, and innovation. She's going to dive into a little bit of the real world application of AI, something that all of government is kind of diving into and trying to figure out together. So let's get started.
Sure.
The administration has really made it clear that it sees AI as a powerful tool for government. So how are your current priorities aligning with this broader federal push?
Hey, thanks, everybody, and thanks to CAIO for having me. So we at the agency have been doing artificial intelligence and data science for quite a while, since the time we had our first data scientists in the teens. Since then, we've definitely seen the advancement and the excitement and the evolution of AI on the outside of government, and we've been really excited about the opportunities that it brings to our mission. Our strategy, I think I've spent a lot of time talking about it. I think I even talked about it here last year. Continues, right? We continue to drive implementation of our strategy around three strategic pillars, which is AI as an intelligence topic, right? We are trying to understand our adversaries' plans, use, and intentions with AI, mission enablement, right? How are we improving our own business and mission with AI? And finally, how are we stewarding AI through our agency, right? That's around standards, benchmarks, testing, evaluation, all of the things, fiscal stewardship, right? All of the things we need to make sure we're operating correctly. We've also done some work now to have another pillar around where AI applies directly to our mission. And I can't tell you too closely what some of those activities are. However, I will say that it applies very directly to CIA's mission, core missions, right? How are we doing objective analysis, collection, covert action at the behest of the president, and also counterintelligence, right? So these are all areas that are key aspects of the work that we do. When I think about bringing AI to our mission, first of all, I'm thinking about how are we enabling access to AI? How are we democratizing access so that our data scientists and our developers are able to access it very, very easily? And we're really even thinking now beyond the step of democratization to commoditization, right? How are we commoditizing AI so it's just available all the time so that our officers can integrate it into the workflows that they use every day? I think that culture shift is incredibly important for the work that we do. Having that acceptance, having the availability is the first step to allowing our officers, our mission to really see the transformational power of AI.
I know we'll get into this a little bit, but CIA has really been at the forefront of even coming up with an AI strategy compared to other agencies. But first, I want to get into your role just a little bit, the Chief AI Officer role. As we know, there's been a mandate for each agency to have one. Doesn't necessarily mean you're new to the AI space for CIA, but I want to get into more of what the role means to you. You have some thoughts about influencing without authority. What's the role's significance now in this AI age?
So I believe that the Chief AI Officer role during this time is a critical leadership role for government agencies. It is a technical role. But it is beyond a technical role. It is also a strategic role. It's a collaborative role, right? You have to exercise some diplomacy. And it is also a very strategic role. I think there are leaders around very famous CEOs around the country who've talked about the transformative power of AI. Eric Schmidt said it is exiting the laboratory and it is going to be a key driver of national power and progress. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, said it is the defining technology of our era, right? So I think everybody understands the transformational power it can have and how we do our business and how we exercise our tradecraft. From a strategic perspective, working through the ways that AI can change your business, the different use cases, how you're going to align strategic priorities with this very key technology is a huge part of the work that I do. It's a huge part of trying to move the agency to realize the gains that can come from this technology. From a technical perspective, it's a lot about our enterprise architecture, right? What I talked about before, ensuring that we have the key capabilities available for our officers to be able to, for our data scientists and developers to be able to leverage really quickly, and for our line officers to be able to recognize the benefit from. And I think, without this role, what we would see, without people who are able to help, think about upskilling the talent, thinking about where do we prioritize our investments, without thinking about what are the next big things that we should be applying AI to our use cases. I think what we would see is a lot more fragmented adoption. I think we would see less compliance, and we see a lot more duplication of effort, right, leading to inefficiency and less effective capability.
It sounds like there's a lot of good momentum and progress that you're starting to build and kind of starting to realize some of those things. Now going back to that AI strategy question, some of those things include, things like a chat bot for the enterprise, models as a service. You mentioned training. So I want to ask more about what that AI strategy entailed. What movements have you seen from it lately? What more is there to go or realize from that? Or maybe initial key lessons that you'd like to share?
Sure. Right now, AI is moving so quickly, right? To understand where it's going to go beyond the next year or two would be something that I would not dare to do. However, what I do believe is that we need to be ready within the government and the intelligence community to quickly uptake the new technologies that are coming as quickly as possible, especially as they, if we determine that they apply properly to our mission. And that's honestly, to me, been one of the real things that I've been driving towards is how important the partnerships we have with private industry are, right? We need to be able to have those private industry partnerships where a lot of the innovation is happening, and then be ready to bring them into the agency, bring them into the IC as quickly as possible.
Sounds like partnerships are a big part of that strategy.
I talked about diplomacy, right? We need to collaborate across the IC with our private sector partners, right? It's all very key.
Absolutely. Some of the challenges that agencies commonly face with AI, you mentioned some of them already, but they're pretty varied and at different stages. And some of the challenges, as you can imagine, are pretty tough. Mm-hmm. You consider legacy systems, data availability, data quality. So for those in the room here, what are some of the challenges that you're thinking through that might resonate with folks in here? How do you envision overcoming those?
So I'm going to share one that I think we all understand and we all feel it is talent, right? I think this is an incredibly in-demand skill set, anything related to AI, right? AI engineers, data scientists, machine learning, ML ops people, right? Those are all heavily in-demand skill sets. So that is definitely a challenge, is ensuring that we have the right skill sets in place to do the work we need. We are also putting a lot of effort towards educating and training and upskilling our workforce, right? All the way from our general workforce to understand how to partner and do human-machine teaming, right? Be able to perform human-machine teaming in partnership with AI, as well as our practitioners, right? Who really need to have the latest and greatest understanding of the technology, all the way up to our senior leaders, right? Who need to understand how AI can transform their organizations. So everything around talent is a huge, I would call it an opportunity more than I would call it a challenge, but thinking about how we're going to train, educate, and then ultimately shift our culture, right? To be able to partner with this technology and exercise the human-machine teaming that is necessary.
Would you say AI is a mandatory trait that those looking to join the government need to have?
I think anybody who understands the intersection of technology and national security from many different angles would be a very appealing candidate. And part of that is because we at the agency look for those who have natural curiosity and are lifelong learners, because honestly, threats and such are always changing. So understanding that, hey, there's this new technology and I'm interested in it, I mean, that just fits into a profile that we look for or we think are very appealing for officers of the agency.
Absolutely. Where do you see opportunities for maybe not just CIA, but the IC in overall, or maybe government writ large, to collaborate and share lessons learned? You say that is a huge part to upskill. So where are you seeing the biggest impact?
Oh, partnership across the IC is integral. I talk to my counterpart at NSA multiple times a week, if not every day. I know I talked to him yesterday afternoon. So we talk often, and there are so many opportunities and areas where collaboration is and can be possible. I'm also a part of an IC CAIO council with all of my counterparts, my chief AI officer counterparts from around the IC, where we talk about areas of collaboration. I think opportunity spaces, abound in areas for thinking about where we can have joint efforts, areas where there can be interoperability, and even just being able to provide applications and services to the IC writ large.
Fantastic. So one last question. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you think is particularly unique about the CIA where you...
other than it's the coolest place to work ever?
I would say that, yeah. But anything that maybe you thought was surprising in regard to this AI journey?
I don't know if I would say it's surprising. I mean, ever since I started at the CIA, it's almost 23 years ago. So it's been quite a while. And the thing that I know about the CIA is how, again, going back to, how much we lean into thinking about what, the future, how we need to be addressing emerging challenges and threats. In my experience, we've just always been like that. So the fact that we are leaders in the IC, and I would say in the government writ large, with respect to our approach to AI, in some ways is not much of a surprise to me at all. We have very, very smart people. We have a very talented workforce who really are thinking about new approaches, new things, all of the time. So I'm incredibly proud of the organization I work for and what we're doing in the AI space.
Sounds very exciting, and I'm sure I could ask so many more things, but really glad to sit down with a live Chief AI Officer who is really spearheading some really cool things. So thank you for sharing with us.
Thanks for having me, Amy.
All right.